Kia ora. We're in Auckland, the multicultural capital of New Zealand. People of diverse ethnic groups live here. And this diversity is not only in big cities, but all across New Zealand. 25 years ago, a group of migrants got together to form the New Zealand Federation of Ethnic Councils. This is the story of the organization, which we now call Multicultural New Zealand. You will get to learn and see some of its people and our quest for cultural understanding and unity within the country we now call home. Come with me as we explore this story together. I remind.
From memory that it was 1989 that these main regional councils met in Christchurch, and we formed the ethnic federation.
Mm-hmm. That's where the first council was actually formed, and your husband Kwango was the first one. He was elected president of the Christchurch Ethnic Council for the first one.
I'm a New Zealand-born Chinese. My mother was born here, and I've been brought up in this country. My father paid the poll tax at the time, so we've seen a lot of changes.
I still remember how I got involved, because Kwan and myself have been very involved with the Chinese community here, because my involvement in the Chinese community here go back a long, long time, partly because my wife teach all these in those days young children, and about 10 to 12, and now they're in their 50s.
Dr. Go was the first national president, yes, and he was followed by Grace Hollander from Christchurch. I was vice president under Grace, and then I was elected, and I had 2 terms as New Zealand national president. And I found that a very, very time-consuming time, very rewarding though, and I enjoyed the sense of the potential for leadership.
There were regional councils in the main cities, but nowhere else. We all talked about it and decided what the important issues were: funding, government support, English classes, and a reduction of what was becoming a little obvious, and that was racial discrimination.
Because in the 1980s we had a couple of serious racist events in Auckland against the Indian community and against the Jewish community.
Yes, well, what initiated us to take steps for the ethnic community was one of the councillors, Julian Firth. He called at a council meeting when the application was made for a dairy owner. He called them, "Oh, another curry muncher." And then from that developed that he also made a statement that, oh, these dairy people shortchange people, give to young children and rob them and all the rest of it. And we took exception to that, and we took action.
And the Auckland Race Relations Office invited the representatives of the various communities to come for a meeting in the Race Relations Office, because the feeling was if we all work together and deal with racism, we wouldn't feel so isolated and we would have strength. And that's where the thought of talking in one voice about issues of common concern began.
Multicultural New Zealand has now grown and expanded to 20 regions across the country, delivering settlement support and social services, community development and cultural maintenance programs that encourage integration and safety for community resilience.
Philip Curry from Auckland he was the president at that time, and he sort of pushed forward we should have more councils. How I set around doing it was going to Palmerston North, seeing the mayor of Palmerston North and asking him, could you help us to form an ethnic council? And he said, yes, I'll put so and so from my staff to work on it, and that's how working together with the Department of Internal Affairs, because we were an ethnic affairs desk in Parliament.
In 1989, there were ethnic councils in half a dozen centres around New Zealand, and we decided to form a New Zealand Federation of Ethnic Councils. And we modelled that on the Australian Federation of Ethnic Community Councils. And a key thing was the choice of the word ethnic, because 1990 was the 150th anniversary of the Treaty of Waitangi. And in the few years up to that, there was a big emphasis on biculturalism, recognition of Maori rights under the treaty and status as tangata whenua. And whenever you used the word multiculturalism at that time, it was interpreted as being in opposition to biculturalism. So we had to find a way to what to call the federation without engaging in a confrontation, a side issue. So we decided to use the word multi-ethnic. And in 1989 we founded the Federation of Ethnic Councils. And in 1990 we had the first national conference of the New Zealand Federation of Ethnic Councils. And the concept was multi-ethnic New Zealand, a commitment for the future, ethnic groups in the Treaty of Waitangi.
Multicultural New Zealand was instrumental to the establishment of the Office of Ethnic Affairs, the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment Settlement Support Program, Ethnic Leadership Development Program, and a treaty-based multiculturalism agenda.
How does multiculturalism fit into the Treaty of Waitangi?
It's a very good question, because a lot of people ask it the other way round. They say, how does the treaty fit into multiculturalism? So I'm really pleased that that's the way round, that you've asked it, because the treaty was and is an invitation to everybody who's not Māori to have a place in this land. It was an opportunity to share the land and an opportunity to build nationhood on the basis of that relationship of tangata whenua with everyone else. It was a very generous thing for the people of this place to put their hand out and say welcome.
The New Zealand Federation of Multicultural Council has asked the government to sign the declaration, the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Rights. One of our prime ministers in the United Nations said that we couldn't sign it because we are a multicultural society. But as a multicultural council, we said that it should be signed. And that led this country to sign that declaration.
And they have developed a really nice statement which they've referred to as treaty-based multiculturalism, where the status of Māori as Indigenous people is recognised and the role of tangata tiriti is also understood. And it's a very visionary policy statement.
The New Zealand Federation of Multicultural Councils has forged a new way of thinking in terms of the Treaty of Waitangi and multiculturalism. It is going through a hikoi of talking within the communities with regards to a treaty-based multicultural approach and a framework for New Zealand. And I think that is an awesome achievement, that we have that thinking. It is no longer rhetoric, there is research and the communities engaged. And the Federation has engaged with tangata whenua, right, in this korero, to align ourselves not with just city council and district council, but also to align ourselves with mana whenua and the local EV as well. And that is something that going forward will impact on our practices, our aspirations and our activities as well.
The 2013 census confirmed ethnic communities now make up nearly 15% of New Zealand population. For this reason, the Federation has positioned itself to be the collective voice of ethnic, migrant and refugee communities and to inform and advise government, organizations and the general public on multicultural policy and practice.
Well, it's tough for New Zealanders and for immigrants, and but it's about communities being aware of the difficulties that new New Zealanders face when they come into a community, or on a regional basis. So it's important that the local people understand just some of the issues that new people face when they come to an area, and help people deal with that. It's one thing understanding the difficulties, but it's another thing in actually putting your hand out and saying, look, we can help. For many communities in New Zealand, that's a new experience for them too. Actually understanding that part of their philosophy, if you like, as a community is changing, the composition of it's changing, and then when we need to be making sure that when we're putting policy in place, that part of that policy is having an understanding of the New Zealanders as they view things. But again, that's a new experience for most communities.
I think when you talk about immigrants coming to a country, there will always be initial challenges. That's the nature of coming into an already established society as coming from a different ethnic group. So there will be challenges. What I would like to think, though, that because New Zealand has had such a run of different ethnic groups coming into the country for now well over 100 years, New Zealanders should be able to integrate and welcome different ethnicities into the country. I don't think it's a matter of resourcing. The resourcing should come to give social support, but in terms of the welcome, that is part of the mind of people saying, these are new to our country, we want to welcome them. At the same time, though, you've got to be realistic. If there's not a strategy, it can go all over the place. So some sort of strategy that says, we want to make sure these people who arrive here are part of our school system, they can find employment, we will have different agencies responsible for these sort of things, we ensure their health, their education, their employment is set up.
I found in some of the past communication documents, some information around the need for an ability for the ethnic community, if you will, to speak with one voice.
Yes.
What are your views on that? Considering your history with the Federation over the last couple of years, is that something that you think is still relevant today?
No, definitely yes. As I said earlier on, we had formed the Federation. Initially, we had only 3 regional councils. So Federation was formed to give one voice. No doubt, when we get united, we stand strong and tall. And if we do get divided, then we fall. So that's primarily yes. We are at the moment in the process of forming more regional councils. Wherever there is a local government, the Federation is trying to do its best to form a regional council there.
So we had to have this national body to be able to promote ourselves and have our voice. So that time was very significant to have this multi-ethnic council, which I must say, must give a lot of credit to Dr. Raz and Philip, who did a great job in establishing the Federation.
Very important from point of view of learning what to do, yes. Like access to government services, access.
In early days, really, since the ethnic communities were very small, and we needed this something like the Federation of Ethnic Councils, the multicultural councils, so we could speak with one voice.
I actually joined in year 2000 as the executive officer straight after Diana Clark had left. She was the second executive officer, and at the time the operation was, there was no office for us. So I used to work from home, and that was the Federation's office. And then later on I bought a business in Newtown as a Newtown stationery, and that then became the official address of the Federation. I've seen through at least 7 of the presidents, and I'm still in that role. I've now done my 10 years with the Federation, and I'm here and only because I believe in the ethics of the Federation.
Multicultural New Zealand has built and strengthened relationships resulting in the signing of Memorandum of Understanding with the Ministry of Social Development, New Zealand Police, Office of Ethnic Affairs, Families Commission, Victoria University's Centre for Applied Cross-Cultural Research, New Zealand Neighbourhood Support, and Speech New Zealand.
So we've had an MOU with the Federation for the last 10 years since we've been in existence, and we're Australasia's premier cross-cultural research facility. So we have a really close relationship with the Federation. We have undertaken research with them on numerous occasions over the years, and also we see this as a really valuable relationship because it allows us to access ethnic communities when we're doing our research and then feed that research back to them as well.
I'm an English language teacher, and I've travelled the world teaching language, including in Africa, your continent, and many other countries. When I returned to New Zealand, I could see that there was a necessity to set up a multicultural learning centre to teach language and to teach cultural orientation and employment skills for migrants and refugees. So I set up this school in 1991, so we're 23 years old. In my involvement internationally and nationally, I really have enjoyed the challenge of promoting integration rather than assimilation. So part of that journey has been to join the Multicultural Council, formerly known as the Ethnic Council, and where people from all nationalities come together and celebrate and do things to promote diversity.
Multicultural Council has had really a great contribution so far in engaging in other programs from government agencies. Also, we encourage all the community groups and leaders to participate in programs which help them integrate into the mainstream society. So I hope we wish all the best to Multicultural Council. I'd like to get the message out to other communities to celebrate this diversity of New Zealand as well.
And I was just thinking, I can't remember how long we've had an MOU, but it must be around 10 years as well. And through that period of time, we've had relationships at both national and local levels, which has been really interesting. We've done a lot of work with the Youth Council, which has also been, they're an amazing group of young people that we've been involved with. And I think one of the interesting things for me is just seeing how much the council's changed in those 10 years. It looks very different now, it sounds very different now, the energy levels are different, and what they're achieving in communities is just totally different. It's really exciting stuff, actually.
Te mihi atu kia koutou e te whānau ahakoa no hea I raro I te manaakitanga o tō tātou matua nui. Te rangi he whānau kotahi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my sincere acknowledgements to all of you in the cultural richness of your own respective languages. What an honour and a privilege it is to be here tonight to celebrate the milestone of the New Zealand Federation of Multicultural Councils in celebrating their 25th anniversary. Yesterday in Auckland was a real celebration of that diversity, and I think again testimony to the place that your New Zealand Police has come. And we undertook a big recruitment program with the African Council in Auckland yesterday. Got 150 people through. So again, it's an example of embracing diversity, we've added 2 values over and above the New Zealand Police values of integrity, professionalism, respect, commitment to Māori and the Treaty of Waitangi. Our Commissioner has now added to the conversation respect for diversity and empathy.
Since the formation of the Federation of Multicultural Councils, it has been very active as a voice for ethnic communities through consultations with government agencies, iwis, NGOs, and other community groups, developing initiatives and organizing events that will aid integration, acceptability, and cultural maintenance.
The ethnic people have become a lot more confident now, and they feel that this is home for us, and we are here to stay, and we want to project New Zealand as like any other very diverse country, where we shall be all respected equally, rather than just saying that we are bicultural, which is of course important, that we are a bicultural basis of this country, with Maori being a tangata whenua. But now we are a lot more diverse than the very monocultural European country that we were in years gone by. So, as we moved into 90s when we had a new immigration policy, where a lot more people were allowed to come in under a point system. So we had a big influx, if you like, of people in the 90s and of course in the 21st century. And now we are a lot more confident in saying that we should really promote New Zealand as a multicultural place for all of us to equally share this place while respecting the tangata whenua of this country.
In 2006, when I was the chair, someone said to me, "What do you aspire? You aspire for a multicultural society. Then perhaps you need to walk the talk." And in that year, we changed our name from New Zealand Federation of Ethnic Councils to the New Zealand Federation of Multicultural Councils. And in council, there was a unanimous vote for all the regional councils to change their names to multicultural. What it said to us at that time was that we were no longer afraid of our ethnicities. We wanted all cultures to be respected in this country, and that every New Zealander had an ethnicity.
We're all different, and I think we have come a long way, as Punch said. It's an education thing, has a huge element to play, and the Federation has a part to play in that. Communities have a part to play in that, because my neighbour today is not the same person who was 20 years ago in Upper Hutt. So part of that education process is to say, I've got my family living next door to me, comes from India. They do this, they do that. We're part of them. That's the whole process, how communities change.
Cultural identity, cultural maintenance, extremely very important. Our culture is who we are, is our DNA. And for first generation migrant, there's a part of them that came with them that can never be lost. The language, food, music, stories, proverbs in your language. Those are things that.
And did you say food?
Food, yes.
Culture means that people of different groups or different ethnicities think and behave in a certain manner. The way they feel, they act, be it an organization, be it an ethnic community, be it a nation. And therefore, what is very, very important is to have the cultural competence. Cultural competence means that we understand the other person from his or her background, or the other ethnicity from their background, and we work together.
Now, following up on your conversation around cultural competence, how would you say that immigrants are fared in New Zealand, especially in relation to business opportunities, and are there sufficient resources in the ethnic business sector to support migrants who are, wishing to become entrepreneurs, set up their own businesses, and contribute to New Zealand society.
To run a business, especially in an economy like New Zealand, is a very, very difficult proposition. The agencies that are there to help out have to really come and help out in the way that the businesses need help. And therefore, it is our endeavor through this advisory board that we are going to have partnership with financial institutions. And I'll also appeal to all the leaders of the various ethnic business groups that they have a social responsibility, as what we call the CSR, the corporate social responsibility, that they help and they assist and they do all that's possible for their own ethnic business people who are struggling, who are wanting help.
I have the sense that something quite special is being created in this very distant land. The last stop on the planet, as they like to call Aotearoa or New Zealand. And I think that's not a term of abuse. I think it's quite interesting and quite accurate term. According to the 2010 census, 46% of those people who live in Auckland were born outside New Zealand. 46%. You can be sure, given the migration that's taken place in the last 4 years, that figure is over 50%. Now, I'm standing here as one of those people. I came out to New Zealand at the age of 8 with my parents, and they came here, let's be blunt, searching for economic opportunity, a safe environment, and a clean and beautiful place. And I'd be surprised if we had the opportunity to go through all of the people here who were not born in New Zealand, like me, no matter whether you came from Gujarat, from China, from Tamil Nadu, wherever you came from, Fiji. I'm sure that you came here yourself or accompanied by parents who came to New Zealand for the same reason that my family arrived here, for economic opportunity. And we do have a fantastic opportunity.
There's a lot of small and medium migrant businesses that need support. And for Federation, for the past 25 years, we've focused on social needs, social support, and we feel business is also part of the community, and we need to start addressing the business, especially the small and medium ethnic enterprises.
Multicultural New Zealand, the Federation of Multicultural Councils, is a volunteer organization of which we have seen an increase in membership with more than 89 nationalities and 116 ethnicities. The organization's existence becomes more relevant and very imperative to provide settlement support and address social, economic, and cultural needs of the ever-increasing new migrants.
Because the Multicultural New Zealand is a volunteer-run organization, and if you look at the Federation, we do run events monthly all over New Zealand, from race relations to monthly potluck to you and I can eat, you and I can play. There's all these projects that each region develop and run. At this present, we've got 7 regional councils, and then we're just about to add 2 more. And thanks to Todd Foundation, Todd Foundation has actually buy into this, and we've run the first round, of which Wanganui and Dunedin was able to build their capacity to have an office and a coordinator. Now we're going to Tairafiti in Gisborne and the Upper Hutt, and also Todd Foundation is already committed to the 3rd round, of which we're looking to. So I think to me, moving forward, I think that's where we need to be, and to be able to support the volunteers. And from my activities with Institute of Director, I got to understand the principle of good governance, and that's where I started to take the Federation to understand that the management should focus entirely on management and advocacy, support, and as well as training our volunteers, where the volunteers can be involved with their strategic direction. We need, each regional council needs at least a part-time coordinator to support the volunteers. At the 25th year, I think that's where we're able to solidify and separate it, and I think we're in a good shape going forward to the next 25 years.
Is that journey say probably 18 years ago till today has inspired me to have a very strong, to be outspoken about migrants, to be outspoken that if you're a citizen or a resident of this country, you are a Kiwi or a New Zealander, and to be outspoken about what you believe your place in your new mother country is, that you are a New Zealander. And if you believe in something, you voice it, but not just voice it. I have a strong belief that actions do speak louder than words, and for me the Federation was the action of everything that I had spoken in what I remember of the Federation going back 25 years. And now I will really remember the Federation reflecting 25 years because I've been through 6 presidents, and on the 25th year, I think I'm sitting on the fence where I'd like to look another 25 years, because now I've got a grandson that has ethnicity of Fijian, Chinese, German, Samoan, and Guyanese. That's what I'm looking forward to, another 25 years of multicultural New Zealand.
We're talking about 25 years into the history of the Federation. I would like to hear from one woman to another. What would you like to say to Grace, perhaps?
Well, I mean, what a great start, Grace. I think that, our founding members are so crucial to actually starting this discussion in New Zealand and actually taking some steps. And, we're immensely proud of the work that has happened before us. So, big ups to you guys for actually having done everything, before us. And we've just got to try and carry on and make it stronger.
Yes.
And I guess what I would ask is, what were your main challenges? Are they still what we face today, which is a lack of healthy discussion about it, a lack of openness about the issues? Are those the same things that were happening
I
back
suppose so, yes. I think it's an educational problem. People who are educated and know a little bit about the world and everything else understand what the situation is. It's the ignorant people who haven't done the best with their education who are the problem, I suppose.
I remember 25 years ago I was just a youngster, just a teenager, and there was so much of me that rebelled against the norms of society, and I was an immigrant to this country, and there was so much unfairness, and I even knew back then that even though New Zealand is one of the best places in the world to live, it was rife, the amount of intolerance to other cultures and other societies, and we were trying really hard to fit in. And 25 years on, if I could look back at what's been achieved now, 1 in 3 of us are now of some kind of migrant descent in this country. So it's a huge proportion. I guess my nirvana would be like, what will it be like in another 25 years from now? Will we be sitting around here? I'll be over there, Grace, and we'll see. I'll have someone over here who's going to be telling me just how much it's improved over that time.
Yeah. And would you agree that there has been some improvement over the last 25 years?
Yes, definitely. The general attitude of people has changed, and hopefully the Multicultural Society is somewhere responsible for that. Yes.
Many different cultural communities from around New Zealand. You are women who can lead other women and encourage them to be politically active and take up the role yourself. Think of it in that light, that you can bring to that debate and that representation, those skills that you have got. And you will find it the most rewarding role that you could possibly have. Well, that's my experience of 30 years in this job, and I'm still excited about it.
We've got our Canterbury Cultures radio program on Plains FM 96.9, and through that program we're trying to connect to the ethnic sector. We've got 7 different NGOs, leading agencies, and we are trying to, it's like a program for, to and by the ethnic sector. And we're trying to let people know about the services which are available, and we are sort of trying to connect to them, letting them know about different cultures and the services that they can avail within the sector, and a bit of entertainment, sharing their stories, their challenges and music.
And actually we have grown in the last couple of years by supporting more ethnic groups to express themselves. After the earthquake, it has been noticed that the cases of domestic violence has increased dramatically, which is also an indication that the events that the city went through has affected the citizens, and that's one of the way they deal with their feelings and so on. Is one of the biggest challenges right now in Christchurch.
Torn Between Two Cultures is a project to document women who come in and to tell their stories about where they come from and what they would like to bring and share here in New Zealand.
Because we already have services in place, but there's always room for improvement.
You are well positioned to be at the forefront of supporting national and regional programs and projects to develop unity, inclusiveness, openness, and tolerance among New Zealand's diverse communities. Celebrate, learn, respect, and encourage each other's uniqueness, religious beliefs, traditions, cultures, festivals, and languages. Again, there is a Maori saying, which aptly states and reflects the essence of this relationship. And it says, tuwi tuwi tangata, tuwi tuwi korowai. Bringing people together is like weaving a korowai cloak, a symbol of honor and respect and authority.
My name is Yuna. I'm currently the president of the Youth Council. I'm a lawyer in Auckland and I'm originally from Korea. I've been involved with the Youth Council since I was in university, so I think the Christchurch Regional Council member kind of urged me to attend a youth forum, and from then onwards I just fell in love with it.
My name is Akil. I am currently studying Law and Commerce at the University of Auckland, and I am the secretary for the Youth Council. Like Yuna, I was also approached by the Auckland Regional Council to attend one of the forums, and instantaneously I was captivated by what the beliefs that they held, and I wish to promote those views not just in Auckland but all throughout New Zealand.
My name is Dwape. I live in Wellington and I'm in my last year of high school. I work with the Multicultural Council of Wellington as the youth representative. I think my goals would be to reach out to more youth, to create maybe a committee or a group where we can kind of be the basis for different ethnic teens and different cultural teens to gather and to maybe explore their differences and find out how we can integrate ourselves into the city.
Tolofalava mai Samoa. My name's Peter Foyce and I'm from Lower Hutt. I've been involved in the Hutt Multicultural Council for the last approximately 5 years. I got introduced to it through Race Unity Day, where we celebrate cultural diversity, and I've been passionate about that ever since. In my day job, I'm a mental health and addiction support worker, and at night I'm a community development and youth development advisor.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Alex from Noumea, New Caledonia. I am the youth coordinator at Rotorua Multicultural Council, and I also work at the youth centre in Rotorua. I've arrived in New Zealand 2 years now, and I had the dream to bring my culture to New Zealand community and to share my experience.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm from Christchurch. I'm an auditor there. I've been working with the Federation for the past 2 years. I've been invited to one of the youth meetings last year, and from then on I keep on participating and being there in their meetings. And I think what I discovered and realized is that I love being in this group.
So the short-term plan that we have at the moment is to set up our own Facebook page and Twitter account so that we can communicate with our young people in the way that we are most comfortable in. A further long-term goal is to set up some workshops and programs that we can share with the agencies in New Zealand that are helping especially children and young people.
At the age of 18, that doesn't mean all of a sudden you have the solution, and there needs to be ongoing support, especially within refugee and migrant families who have come from a different cultural context. They're new to an area and don't always know what services they can access or even how to engage that. It can be really difficult. So us as young advocates, we feel it's really important to be able to engage young people and those services, so those services can provide like quality service delivery. And one of the things that I feel is great about New Zealand is that we acknowledge tangata whenua, but also that we have the rights to embrace our own cultures. And as a first generation Samoan Kiwi, I want to ensure that my own culture is intact, and I feel we all have that right, so it's really cool to be part of this group.
In the next 2 or 3 years, we would like to see Youth Council facilitating our own youth forum about issues like this that the Federation concentrate on. And we're really blessed that we've got a group of excellent role models in our Federation that can lead us and provide those kind of resources to us. So, whatever vision that they have, we're 100% willing to support that.
And I think that the reason a lot of our generation is involved is because and they want to make the changes for the ethnic community and improve the living standards for the next generation.
We need to encourage younger people to participate, that we do not grow into a bureaucracy, right? That we still remain a community group, right? And celebrating the different ethnicities in our respective communities. I think that's an agenda that we can have.
My last question to the three of you: if you were to define the Federation in one word, with what you know from the past and what you know now, and looking to the future, which word will you use, and why will you use that word?
Can we say a sentence?
Okay. I understand, that's fine.
Well, I think it's an organization which has a good future if it's managed properly.
Strength through unity.
One voice.
If you were to describe the Federation in one word, what will that word be, and why will you use that word?
The buzzword for the Federation is cultural competence.
It gives you opportunities to be who you are.
United.
Essential.
Leading edge.
Diversity.
We are many people
for one nation.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for New Zealand, and the Federation's very much at that cutting edge.
That we should live in harmony and appreciate what all people can offer.